While Ted Bundy was imprisoned for his crimes, he gave his opinions to detectives on the psychology and behavior of a serial killer on the loose. He had suggested that the killer was revisiting places where he had buried the bodies to perform sexual acts on the bodies and said that they should stake out fresh burial sites. The detective realized that Bundy was just telling him things he himself had done and that serial killers have a lot in common. Gary Ridgway was eventually arrested in 2001. He was identified as being the Green River Killer, with much of Bundy's analysis on him being true. John Wayne Gacy killed so many people that he ran out of space to store victims. Gacy would kill his victims in his own house and then bury them in the crawlspace. Once police obtained a search warrant for Gacy's house, they found 26 bodies in his crawlspace. He had turned it into a graveyard. He eventually ran out of space, so he began burying bodies in other places on his property or throwing them off nearby bridges. Dennis Nilsen was a serial killer who lived with his victims. He lured young men, who were runaways or homeless individuals, into his home by offering them food, shelter, and alcohol. Once they were either intoxicated or asleep, he would strangle or drown them in his bathtub. He would keep the bodies after killing them. He dressed them, bathed them, and even slept next to the corpses of his victims. He would treat them as if they were still alive and even talk to them. Neighbors began to complain about horrible smells coming from his apartment and strange objects being thrown away. The police discovered the remains of several victims. He was convicted of 6 murders, but he admitted to more. Nilsen died in 2018. In 1928, Albert Fish abducted and murdered 10-year-old Grace Budd. 6 years later, in 1934, he sent a letter to the Budd family in which he went into horrifying detail about how he had murdered and eaten parts of Grace. However, the envelope he used helped police track him down. The letter had a logo that brought police to a boarding house where a man matching Fish's description had recently stayed. Fish was arrested and claimed to have murdered and eaten several other children. John Wayne Gacy murdered at least 33 boys and young men between 1972 and 1978. He had created an alter ego as Pogo the Clown. He would perform at children's hospitals, parties, community events, and political fundraisers. He would fully paint his face and wear a costume to put on balloon animal shows and entertain kids. The fact that Gacy was able to blend in as a friendly man is deeply disturbing and what allowed him to go undetected for so long. David Berkowitz, also known as the son of Sam, claimed that a dog told him to kill. It was his neighbor's demon-possessed black Labrador named Harvey, whose commands he was obeying. This dog was apparently a messenger for Satan and told him to kill. He later recanted this story as it was just done to appear insane and avoid the death penalty. However, many people had genuinely started fearing their pets, especially black dogs, as they suspected that they were linked to a supernatural force.